Hi, my name is Moshe Kindler, and I'm the publisher of The Jewish Link.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Kratz. I'm editor of The Jewish Link.
And you're on The Jewish Link Pitch Meeting Podcast.
Moshe, I know we have a very cool speaker today, and I know both of us have known him for many years. I didn't realize that we'd known him for 10 years as the head of a local community institution. But why don't you introduce our speaker today?
Yes, I'm very happy to do so. We have with us, actually, I've known Rabbi Aryeh Stechler for longer than 10 years. We may actually begin to debate how long we've actually known each other for. So I'm going to turn it to Rabbi Aryeh Stechler, who is, give us your full title, Rabbi Stechler.
Rosh Yeshiva and Dean of Heichal HaTorah, Teaneck, New Jersey.
So, Rabbi Stechler, I've known you for longer than 10 years. I'm trying to think how long we've known each other. I've known your father for at least 20. I must have met you some point in the last quarter century, as crazy as that sounds. Definitely well before Heichal. I don't know if we like to discuss age on camera. I think I'm a little bit older than you. But I think we were in Smicha probably within 3 to 5 years after me, for sure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I graduated Smicha around 2003.
Okay, so I'm about 3 years before he's ahead of you. Okay.
And Rabbi Stechler, did you grow up locally?
Yeah, I grew up here in 1981.
Here being Teaneck, by the way.
Here, Teaneck, New Jersey. We moved here in 1981 when I was 3 years old. You can figure out the math, I guess. And we moved to Warwick. Mm-hmm. In fourth grade, my father told us, that we'd be moving one block to Winthrop, but we could not have a basketball court there because it would kill the property values. And I had one on Warwick, so I said, "There's no way I'm moving to Winthrop." But they pulled me over, and that's it. That's basically lived here all my life.
So you grew up. So the story of your life, essentially, in a nutshell, is you grew up without a basketball court.
And are you still mad about that?
Yeah. I feel like even though I grew up on Winthrop, I was deprived as a child.
Winthrop is, as for people who don't know, is one of the broadest and the nicest streets in Teaneck in terms of the size of the plots, right?
Yeah.
They have a little broader street.
If you have
to
a
walk.
basketball court, it's a nice place to live. Yeah.
Wow. So you're still mad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to call you Rabbi, even though I used to call you Aryeh, but I think I stopped calling you Aryeh about 5 to 10 years ago, and that was when I knew that Heichal was going to be a success. I also want to tell you that one of the times I knew that Heichal was going to be a success, and you're going to laugh, is when I walked into my local 7-Eleven on Cedar Lane, and I saw that more than half of the products there are now pashkes and kosher. And I said to myself,
the sour bells,
yeah.
right?
I know if you're able, if Yeshiva was able to completely affect this store, this 7-Eleven, where I go every Friday with my son, I said I knew Heichal was going to be a success. I'm sure no one's ever told you.
Even the Slurpees are marked which ones are kosher.
My goal for the next 10 years for our second decade is that we get cholent in there for Thursday nights. Yeah.
Nice.
By the way, I want to tell you, I've asked them, why don't you have kosher hot dogs? It's coming, and I'm saying I'm sure your Heichal boys and staff will push it.
Yeah.
So I think this is great because initially, when we conceived of our podcast, which is called the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting, we sort of said, let's invite people who we think might have a pitch, something interesting to say, or whether we know they have something coming up at the pike or not. But really, a couple of days ago, we got a call from Heichal's office, and they said, guess what? Heichal is having its 10th anniversary, just like the Jewish Link did a couple of months ago. And we're like, hey, let's get Rabbi Stechler to pitch like what's been going on with you the last 10 years and what should we write about. And even as you're going to tell me this, I'm going to write the story because I already essentially agreed to the idea because it's a great idea.
Well, Elizabeth, I think you also wrote, I think when Heichal was founded, I think you interviewed Rabbi Stechler the first year or so.
I think so. Yeah, I definitely have been involved. I've been involved with a few stories that like about as Heichal has first had this establishment meeting or two. I know that the Wertenthiles and a few other families I know in my neighborhood of Bergenfield were involved initially with parlor meetings. And then I think as you bought the building, when the huge, I saw on the in your I think you have a piece of artwork that says there which year that was. Maybe the third or fourth year.
2016, yeah.
Okay, so it was in the middle of these last 10 years when the Jewish Center of Teaneck became the home of Heichal HaTorah. And that's permanence. That's when you build your edifice, when you start to build your Bayit Nemon, you know?
Yeah.
So, and also I've been to Heichal to speak to the boys as well for
That's
Names
right.
Not Numbers a couple of times, I think. I don't know if you're still doing Names Not Numbers or if you've switched out. Sometimes they do it some years and not. But they're just always really alert boys and interested in the world around them. And also they're unique. They're not all the same. Like we don't have what looks like a Heichal boy versus what looks like, I don't know, a boy from another institution. I think that they're celebrating.
Yeah, I think what categorizes a Heichal Talmud is really good midos. I mean, that's what we look for in the elementary school boys, and someone who wants to grow, because it is a challenging place and it expects the kids to put the effort in. They're going to have a great time. It's going to be a lot of fun, but kids come from homes where they teach good character and a passion for growth. That's really what a Heichal guy is. What they look like, what they dress like, all those external things. We love all Jews, you know.
Right. And you also are drawing now not only from the Teaneck, Englewood, Bergenfield community, but also Passaic, I understand?
Passaic's our number 2 feeder community.
Okay.
YBH is a really growing, exciting school in Passaic, and we're the number 1 high school for that elementary school.
Isn't that nice to say, by the way, that you're the number 1 feeder, the one school that for a recognized yeshiva, elementary middle school? You couldn't say that 7 years ago, 6 years ago.
Even in Teaneck, where we started and our foundation, we never thought we'd be number 1 in YNJ, which we are currently in YNJ. So I think just the fact that in those 2 schools, kids know that Heichal is most of the kids are gonna go to Heichal. I think that's really a huge accomplishment of our 10 years. And in the beginning, it was definitely hard to convince people, both the parents and the kids, that Heichal was the right place for them. And now I feel bad, but we're just turning away a lot of kids because we want to keep the yeshiva small. We have 220 guys next year. We're afraid that if we, grow larger, we won't be able to have that same beautiful connection with each Talmud. So now we have the difficult challenge of turning away kids.
So getting back to, we'll talk about the current challenges and the future challenges, but I was aware that it was your 10th anniversary before. We actually discussed it. I don't know what was in the water in 2013 when we started, but definitely something was going on in the community. I don't know what it was. So the truth is, what I'm going to do is Elizabeth, it's okay with you, is take us back to those years before. Sure. I just like hearing stories of, I always looked at you as a kind of a nonprofit entrepreneur in many ways. It's a yeshiva entrepreneur. You're always interested in looking, and I see it even in how you run the yeshiva. I see it in the way Heichal, deals with the Jewish link and also just promotes itself.
I want to give some credit to my parents, Yossi Stechler and Gail Licht, who are both being recognized, who are chronicling a video about the history of Heichal at this dinner. I always say, I have 2 parts of my brain: the Stechler part, which is, the business part, and the Licht part, which is my grandfather was a high school principal and Rebbe, and both my uncles, my mom's brothers, have been Rebbeim and principals in high schools for many years. So I really look at the 2 sides of my brain that way, and like you said, I try to focus on the business of inspiring kids. I think that in business, there's a sense of what can we do better and how can we grow. A yeshiva, most yeshivas, have learned that already, and I think Heichal believes in that it's always about how can we help our customer. Our customer is the Talmud. We want to give him the best chinuch that we can. What can we do best for him? How can we improve? How can we make it better? And how can we impact more people? So that's what I mean by the business of chinuch.
The customers also the parents as well.
Yeah, I would say they're even more than the customer, because they're the partners in your business. They're the investors, and they have to be on board. And it's really a partnership relationship where Heichal is not exactly the way I would want to be a mechanech if I was just doing it myself. We work with the parents, figure out the vision that they have for the children, figure out our vision, figure out what we share in common, and move, to make it best for our Talmidim.
I hear that. I actually never heard that term. I never heard the idea of parents. I mean, I've listened to a lot of Yeshiva school speeches. I never heard the term as parents. I've heard the parents as partners, for sure. Never heard of the term parents as investors. Interesting.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Take us back 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Right, so
you already started where you grew up. But this, it's 10 years. I want to hear first. I'm sure that the Heichal today is not the Heichal you maybe necessarily envisioned in 2012, 2013.
Right.
But maybe it is.
How did this nugget of the idea?
Right.
How did the name get chosen, and who were the people?
I grew up in Teaneck, lived here my whole life. After I got married and was in Smicha, my wife and I decided to go into the Rabbanos together. I was in Englewood, New Jersey, and I was in Linden, New Jersey. At the same time as I was in Linden, I began teaching in Ramaz in the city. It was a great train from Linden to the city. And after a few years in Linden, it wasn't working so well for my family there. There were a lot of young families moving in, but they were much younger than us old folks. So we moved back here to Teaneck, to our home where we grew up. And the first thing I noticed was that the high school boys in the community, the expectations for them in terms of their avodas Hashem, their connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu during high school, and the level of their learning, I thought was much lower than it needed to be. I thought if you presented kids with a yeshiva environment, with high level learning, also of course with general studies, but did it in a fun way where they could enjoy every day, they would accomplish much more than was currently being accomplished. I spoke about it with a lot of the parents in the community. There was a lot of buy-in, and some of my friends, Rabbi Josh Blass, mentioned to me that he thought that in Muncie this would be very well received, and the same thing with Passaic. So we had parlor meetings in both those communities at that time, and really all three communities were really excited about the idea. Now, the difference about being excited and committing your son to the first year of yeshiva or the second year was a really big jump. So those first 2 years, I think, were really hard to get parents to buy in. But after those first 2 years, seeing what the Talmidim were accomplishing, what they look like you said, just great kids, I think that's after those first few years, the community really started to buy in.
And if I recall correctly, some of your initial partners, investors, parents were mostly from the Teaneck community, I think.
Yeah, Yehudi and Yal Jacoby, Avi and Danira Goldenberg from, and as you mentioned before, Ann and Rachel Wartenthal, the Tarziks, the Gopins, and there were Rabbi Blass and Muncie. These were the families that really jumped on board from the very beginning. The Galonis in Passaic. There are a lot of families who got involved right away.
You had a Katz family, Jessica Katz's son from Passaic.
Uri and Jessica Katz. They sent Shimmy in his second year.
He hasn't left,
and he hasn't
never
left.
Right?
He's our CEO right now. You know.
He really likes it.
Running the yeshiva and running other organizations also at the same time, saving lives.
Was there a moment that just clicked? That you just knew that Heichal was gonna. That Heichal, it was gonna happen before it started. That it was gonna happen. Was it? Was it the first dad? Was it the first parent meeting? Was it the first?
I think some of those first parlor meetings were exciting, but I really didn't believe it was going to happen. I think at our first open house, we had so many people and there was such a palpable excitement. I think that's when I really knew that we were going to get the kids and it was going to start. In terms of your question before, is a really good question. Is the Heichal now the vision that we had originally? Our vision significantly changed. in the beginning, we thought these high level of expectations in learning, and you're going to throw on the general studies also, it would really be yeshiva. The goal was for 80 students, 20 per grade, really sort of an elite yeshiva for, students who are really academically minded and gifted. And sort of by accident, students who were not really your typical student came to the yeshiva, and they did phenomenally well also. And we learned that there was a place for any child in this type of yeshiva environment. And that's really been a major shift for us over the last 7-8 years, opening up 4 tracks and being able to accommodate almost every level of learning within Heichal. And that's how we were able to grow from our original plan of 80 to now 220.
Really, just 80, 20 a grade. That was the original.
That was
vision?
the original vision.
Wow.
Yeah.
But how could you even function with only just 80? So
well, that's the Haredi model. The Haredi model is, instead of having mega high schools, have little tiny high schools that cater to one individual type of student. So we wanted to sort of bring that concept to this community, but really I don't believe in the model anymore. I think that the way we're doing it now in Heichal, I think, and a lot of other yeshivas in the community, where you create an environment and then you try to enable all learners to be there. I think it's a beautiful way to do things.
You were going to take like what I call the Tells Riverdale model, in a sense, which is a school for the elite in the yeshiva world. I have many cousins who went there, and kind of transplanted into our world, I guess, in a sense.
Yeah.
So.
But I think in today's day school environment, which is where you're feeding from, with many of them being the modern Orthodox day schools like the Bergen County ones,
Right.
There is this acknowledgement now that there are multiple different types of learners that can be reached in multiple ways.
Yeah.
And with 4 tracks, it sounds like you even have, is it possible you have a Mechina type track? Or
Yeah, I think the difference is that, in like you're saying correctly, in education, that one of the reasons we thought we had to take the gifted students out is because in a regular school environment, they're teaching to the middle, and the gifted students are not achieving what they could.
Right.
But now that education has advanced, in the sense that educators know they have to differentiate, that different tracks have to be taught differently with different expectations in different ways. So now with that model, you can have in the same environment different kids, and they can all feel great about who they are. The kids who are in the more academically minded, they feel like the heroes of Heichal, because we're not only recognizing the popular kids, the sporty kids, where if you're a base measures kid, you're also one of the greatest kids. And if you're not, and if you're right now, you're struggling through the learning, you're doing your best, but you're excelling in chesed or on the chess club, something like that, you're also one of the heroes in Heichal. So that type of environment, I think, really, it's a beautiful thing.
Was it easy to get to that point? Did you feel like you kind of were pushed into that kind of pivot, that kind of shift? How hard was it to? Yeah, that's a big change.
It was an easy change once you saw how well the kids did. So you had a kid who wasn't academically minded, but he got into the learning. He did what he could. He really excelled. He had other areas, other clubs, other things that he. When you saw how, what Heichal meant to that boy, it was obvious that we needed to make this shift. We had to hire different types of teachers with different skills and different goals, and integrate those teachers with the original Rebbeim and the original teachers. And that was not easy because they had different goals in mind. But now, and at one point, in our 3rd year, people said, "Oh, you have 2 yeshivas now going on here." But now, really everybody's on the same team, we're working together, and everybody grows, from the interaction with each other, and everybody benefits from the special environment at Heichal. So it was not easy, but it's really working well.
How important? First of all, I'm a proud Heichal uncle, as you may know. Elizabeth, I know firsthand of what Rabbi Stechler speaks. Many conversations with my nephew, who's now, I think, just went to yeshiva in Washington, Greater Washington, on Tuesday. But the question I was going to ask is, how important was your location? How important was The Teaneck Jewish Center, where you're located, is a
Yeah.
unique kind of space. I just have to do an aside that it's also the source of one of the Teaneck Jewish
Yeah.
Center is actually.
Special place.
It has a special place in the
Yeah.
Jewish Link history, and I'll just share it with you, which I think I may have told you in the past. When Heichal was about to buy it, there was another bidder, Holy Name. Okay.
Yes.
And we published a Purim edition, which
Oh, God.
And on the cover of the Purim edition, we said that Holy Name was going to open a Lakewood Kollel at the Teaneck Jewish Center. Well,
They did not like that.
I got a call from the CEO of Holy Name saying, "Are you making fun of Holy Name?" Now, Holy Name is a big institution.
All right.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, God forbid, of course not. This is like, it's Purim, it's April Fool's. And they thought that it was a real Purim satire. They didn't understand satire.
Right.
And I apologized to them. And the lesson I learned from that is that humor in the Frum and Orthodox and non-Orthodox community is really challenging.
And fun fact,
Yeah.
that's the reson why our Purim Spiel edition does not go online.
Ever. You'll never find it online.
Yeah.
And but we were happy that Heichal won. But just took it over.
Heichal saved that property. Really, it was sort of like it had been the Jewish center that had gone through multiple iterations since the 60s, and you really brought it back to the center of the community.
I would say there are two separate miracles that happened in our process.
Wait, miracles?
Yeah,
Ooh, we
literally.
like miracles.
Miracles, two miracles. Firstly, it's very hard to start a high school because the needs physically of the property are very demanding. So if you're a tiny high school, let's say you have 20 students in your opening class, that would be amazing. How can you find a place that has classrooms, base medrash, lunchroom? Those might be easy. Now you're talking lab, gym.
Right.
Very, very hard to find a place that
Swimming
has
pool?
that. Yeah. Swimming pool you probably don't have on your list of necessities, but why not? So when we went there to see the space, the fact that there had been a high school that had been there but had closed a few years before us, and the layout was perfect for a high school, that was, I would say, miracle number one. So we were able to find the rental in year one that had everything of a full built-out high school.
So you started renting the
We
Jewish
started
center.
renting, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I told the Jewish Center leadership what we could afford to pay, and they said they'd be happy to rent us one room, for that price. But we worked together, and and we got all those necessary spaces for the times that we needed, and that was miracle number one. Miracle number two was they came to us in year 2 of the yeshiva. That was when we had 33 students, and they said, we just want to let you know that we're probably selling the property to Holy Name Hospital, which will probably mean the closing of your yeshiva. But we are open to hearing proposals from Jewish institutions because we are a Jewish institution and we want to continue having the synagogue here. And, we don't know what would be the future of the synagogue should it be owned by, a non-Jewish entity. So
I remember when that happened, but I don't remember how you guys prevailed.
Right. So at that time, basically, Chabad of Teaneck made a proposal, and we made a proposal. They were both excellent proposals. Chabad was going to turn it into a Chabad house and invest a tremendous amount of money into upgrading the building. We had the proposal of we would buy the building from them, for a discounted price, and in return they would be able to use the building as their shul on Shabbos and whatever needs they had during the week. So they could exist as they were currently existing, and we would just own the building. And it was a great partnership because they got to continue their shul and the legacy of the Jewish Center of Teaneck exactly the way they had before, and we were able to secure our location for then and for the future. So it was really a beautiful partnership. That being said, it came to a vote of the board, and we won 15-14. against Chabad. So the fact that they did not sell to Holy Name, and that they chose us to be the guardians of the building, to own it, that's a real miracle. You know,
That's, by the smallest
by
of
one
margins.
vote, by
One
one
person.
vote. Yeah.
Actually, I forgot that. I recall now, but I remember now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And while Chabad is an inspiring and amazing organization in its own right, and in Teaneck as well, if the history of Teaneck Chabad and even probably Hackensack Chabad would have changed if the focus had shifted toward
I think
a more central Teaneck.
The main thing is that there would have been no Jewish center of Teaneck anymore. And no fault about Chabad, but they would have made a Chabad.
Right.
And this allowed for Heichal HaTorah and the Jewish Center to continue to exist. In terms of the location, I don't think people appreciate how well located Jewishly Teaneck is. And I didn't appreciate it, even though I grew up here. But the fact that you're within 30 minutes of Passaic and Muncie, and you're in the center, it's just a very, very special location. So we and businesses and the Jewish Link can benefit from the fact that not only do you have the Teaneck community, but it's very convenient for Passaic and Muncie to get here. Passaic to Muncie, that's a long drive. Muncie to Passaic, that's a long drive. But all of our families are coalescing in Teaneck, and it brings together a great school community.
And does your teaching staff also draw from these different communities as well?
Yeah, we have teachers and administrators who live here in Teaneck and Rabbeim. We have a lot of them in Passaic and some in Muncie as well. So that's really nice for the boys. We have programming on Shabbos in the communities because their Rabbeim live there.
Right.
Yeah, no, that I'm aware of.
We know, of course, we have a columnist, a beloved columnist in our paper who teaches at the high school, David Rohr, teaches history. And I think also you, on the secular academic side, you have been running a tikva program for a few years, the classics program. Do we have time to talk? Give us a 2-minute about that? I think it's just because I think it's interesting.
Yeah. So David has been a really important piece for us, and he's one of the heroes that is part of our video at the dinner we're recognizing. He has a special way of teaching every single student. So he can give a regular grade level class, and the kids love him, and he can also be the director of the tikva program at Heichal, teaching the most advanced students. Highlights some of the things that we spoke about before. The tikva program, I said before that I have two parts of my brain, the Stechler part and the Lich part. So I would say that one of my personal greatest moments in Heichal's history was that Heichal got recognized by the Wall Street Journal. So I'm not the business person in the family, but Heichal I got in first there. So just that's a shout out to the brothers and the brothers-in-law in the family. But anyway. So the Wall Street Journal recognized our partnership with Tikva and the creative curriculum that we work together to form. It's basically a lot of English literature is taught with a lot of newer works. So you could go through your history. You could go through your 4 years of high school. You might read Shakespeare. But most of the works that you would read in an average high school now in America are not what we would consider the 100 greatest works of all time. Right. So instead of focusing on like a nice, cute novel that the teacher, fell in love with 30 years ago, what Tikva did was try to highlight over the course of the history of the world, what are the 100 most important works. And as the students learn history, in a joint history and literature class, double period, they read the greatest works of all time, and they write about those. So I think that this classics approach to history is really exciting for the kids, and what it does is that when they leave high school, they are just much more sophisticated kids. The way they talk, the ideas that they think about, they're not just thinking about a random novel that was written about like one cute little incident that happened 2011. They really know the history of the world, and they think about some of the great work. So I think it's a really special program, and Tikva piloted it at Heichal and developed it with us, and now it's starting to be in other schools throughout the Jewish community. Okay. Another piece is that when they teach history and they teach these classic works, they're thinking about how did the Jewish people impact history, how do they impact these works? A lot of the works are written by Jewish people, and also they're carefully assessing which of these ideas work with Yiddishkeit, which do not, which I think is very important for our community.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. And unique within the high school community.
What I like about it is that in a sense you're also saying, I think a program like this appeals to some of the more motivated kids, the stronger kids, in a sense that original vision of yours is still present in a tikva. So it's meaning you. Right. So I'm just when I heard about tikva, I thought why is Heichal wouldn't seem to be the natural partner for tikva, but when you start talking about what the original vision for Heichal was, is that then I got it.
Anything that will enhance and challenge the students and at any level for any of the different tracks, we want to be involved in, and that's what I said to tikva. I'm willing to partner with you if you tell me that the kids will be better educated because of your curriculum by the time they leave here, then you're a good partner for us.
Okay. And then let's talk let's give a little attention to Limudei Kodesh as well. And since you taught at Ramaz, I assume you were you a Gemara Rebbe?
Yeah, I was a Gemara Rebbe.
Well, you miss the days of being in the classroom and also the rabbinate. You miss I always like to ask former rabbis what they miss about Rabbanos and what they miss about being in the classroom. Yeah. I think you might still be in the classroom.
Do you teach a class? Maybe you teach a class?
I don't right now. I do miss the classroom. I do miss being a teacher. I do not recommend being an administrator if you weren't previously a teacher, because you can't really empathize with the teachers and what they're going through and how challenging of a job it is. So I think that my years at Ramaz really helped me understand what it means to be a teacher. I was also served there on the faculty council. They have close to 300 employees, and they have a union, and I was a union rep, one of them. So that really helped me understand what goes on behind the scenes. When people needed to be let go, I was in the room. Different things.
That's really
that was trenches. That was great experience for me. And I always tell Ramaz that I owe them a lot for that experience.
Fun fact, Moshe, that I've never told this to anybody on the podcast or to you. My grandfather was the union rep on the Manhattan Project.
So he was a union rep of a project he couldn't talk about. Beautiful.
Correct.
Okay.
That's cool.
And so I understood this is a person who is a people person and someone who has to be present for very difficult conversations, but also can be seen as a partner of both sides, both entities that can be, in
we had to negotiate the healthcare plan for 300 people, and we had to understand why can't the school contribute? So we said we want to see the budget. You're telling us you don't have money, so they showed us the budget. So I learned a lot from that experience. Going back to the rabbinate, I don't miss the rabbinate as much as you'd think, because for me the greatest thing about the rabbinate was really helping people. You're there for them at very tough times in their life. You're there for them at exciting times. That's what I loved about the rabbinate. And fortunately and unfortunately, through my years at Heichal, their kids have been through very difficult things, and we as a team have been there for them. They've also had great moments, and we've been there for. So I feel like I don't miss the rabbinate that much. I do owe a lot to the rabbinate my father tells people he went to law school and then he moved to the investment field. He always says, go to law school, but don't be a lawyer, because you learn in law school how to think, how to write. So I say the same thing about the rabbinate. I'm not sure that it takes a super person to be able to be in the rabbinate as a career, because it's so demanding and emotionally and physically. But I always tell people, I think you should be a rabbi for a few years, because you learn a tremendous amount about life very quickly. And one day I could be at a bris, I could be, a funeral in the hospital with somebody, have a wedding that night. You learn a lot about life really quickly, so I think the rabbinate helped me grow up a lot.
And the head of school role is less stressful? To me, I'm like,
Yeah.
these are also like kids.
Head of school is, in my mind, it's even harder than the rabbinate in some ways. I explained that, in the Rabbanis I get complaints, why do we have this toilet paper in the shul? This is ridiculous, and that's when people
You get those complaints today?
That's when people are paying $1,000 for their membership. Imagine if they're paying $20,000, $30,000.
Right.
So yeah, I don't necessarily recommend head of school as a profession either. I think it's something you have to really believe in. You have to have a dream. You have to have a great partner at home, like I have Danya. So again, I don't think it's a great recommendation for a career. If people feel it inside, they're going to be heads of school. If they don't, it's not a career aspiration.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wish you a lot of chizuk for the next 20 years, next 10
Well,
years.
so let's focus on 10 for now. Yeah.
But can we talk about what your crazy dreams are? I know as we sort of hit the 45-minute mark of our podcast, we want to talk about your dreams. We want to do a wild card question, like say something crazy, something you'd really like. You've already been in the Wall Street Journal, so like that's like what else is there, kind of. But is there something else
for the next 10 years? I think that. Well, I'll talk about the Jewish Link for a second. I got to give you guys some props,
Thank you.
So
unnecessary, we appreciate it. We'll take it. Though.
Look, I think something I like about the Jewish Link is that, 99% of Shomer Shabbat homes in Bergen County, and even just Jewish homes, when Shabbos comes, everyone's opening up the link. And I think that is a beautiful thing. And for you to be 10 years in, and that's how everyone is experiencing their Shabbos, I think that's special. So I think the general, dream for Heichal HaTorah is that it is the center of Torah for the community, that it, supports the shuls and the schools, and it becomes a center of Torah. We started with a high school. We ran for 3 years a post-Israel program, which is on hiatus right now. But there are so many different programs that and so many different ideas that we have that we could build in terms of transforming Heichal from just a high school, which it's a lot, to impacting every single member of northern New Jersey and Rockland County, their Judaism. That's really our long-term goal for the next 10 years. How we get there, exactly which programs we do and which we don't do, that's, we need some guidance from our investors and Hashem on that, but that's the 10-year goal.
Okay, great. And how will you be celebrating the 10th anniversary?
Yeah, for our 10th year, we have rented out the Dream Live space at American Dream.
Oh.
Yes, it's exciting.
It's in this week's paper.
It's a beautiful place. We're going to be showing a video about the history of Heichal, narrated by 10 of our heroes, and after that, it's going to be Lag BaOmer night. So we're going to be having a Baruch Levine Kumsitz and concert with our guys. So it should be an amazing event.
You've done that before. I mean, you're not American Dream, but Heichal's always done a Lag BaOmer concert, I think, with a bonfire, if I'm not mistaken.
Lag BaOmer we haven't done yet, but we've done Purim, we've done Simchas Pesach Shoeva. We really want to add this to our repertoire of community events. It's a fundraiser. This is our biggest fundraiser of the year. We give out $1 million in scholarships. So we, through this event, we would like to pay the bills and make sure that every student can come to Heichal regardless of need, which we've never turned away in 10 years anybody based on that. So the way we're going to raise $1 million is by an online campaign, May 3rd through May 8th. At www.heichalten.org. I'll say that again. www.heichal10 10org, either the number 10 or the letter 10, whichever you'd like. You can go to both of those. You RSVP for the dinner concert there, and we need everyone to contribute. $18, $180, $18,000 all gets us to the $1 million.
And you're no stranger to the online fundraising campaign. You've been doing this for a few years, I think, successfully.
Yeah, thank God. We have raised over $1 million in each of our previous two online campaigns. I would really want to thank Susie Littman, who's our campaign manager for both of those campaigns, and she's doing it once again. It really is about involving every one of our investors, parents, everyone in our community, the teachers, the Rebbeim.
You have alumni now also?
Alumni. Everyone gets involved and reaches out to their family and friends and asking for donations. And it's not just about Aryeh Stechler raising the funds, it's about the whole Heichal community raising the funds, and together you're stronger than just one individual.
So I love these campaigns. The goal should be that you raise double or more for 10th anniversary, or obviously 10 million, I guess, for 10 for 10. I think it's great. I think just tell us a little bit. I know you have a bunch of heroes as part of the show, as part of the program. Tell us about these heroes, or the plan for the heroes.
I mentioned my parents. We are Aryeh and Ariel Scheinbein, our current president, who was previously the head of the finance committee, has played a key role in the last 5 years in getting Heichal to where it is financially. Rabbi Parnas, our Hayashir Rebbe, has really raised the level of learning at Heichal. Rabbi Schwechter, our Mashgiach, connecting with all types of boys at Heichal, was one of the people who enabled us to expand to different type of kids. Avi Epstein, our director of admissions and director of student life, has played a significant role in the growth of Heichal. We mentioned Shimi Katz, our COO, before. We mentioned David Rohr before. Also Shmuel Kaplan, another alumnus who's our current Heichal basketball coach. It's been great to see how he's developed as a nice young man and graduating college now and leading the boys on the court.
By the way, I hear the Heichal team is really good. It's been good for the last few years.
Yeah, thank God. We won a lot of championships, and the kids have fun. It's amazing to see what they do on the court. So the goal of the Heichal Heroes is for me to, yes, I am the founding head of school. And when you have a founding head of school who's still the head of school, a lot of times it can be perceived as a one-person show. And I got a call from Rabbi Blas, a very touching call, when he heard that we started the 10-year dinner anniversary, and he said, Rabbi Stechler, I'm going to tell you, you have to be the honoree at the 10th year. And I was very touched by that, and it meant a lot to me that he said that. But I always say, and I want to highlight, that Aryeh Stechler is a great person. I've tried to do a lot of things, and a lot of them have failed. The fact that Heichal is successful is because, yes, of the vision, and I'm not taking, every institution needs a leader, but the fact that we have so many people who are so invested and have given their heart and soul, and they're talented, and they're dedicated, that's the reason, with God's help, that Heichal has been successful. So for me, having 10 heroes highlighted at this dinner, narrating the history of Heichal, is much more important than one person, and that's very important to why Heichal has been successful, and it's the only way that this campaign will be successful, the next 10 years will be successful. So everybody realizes that we need everybody to play a really important role.
So when I hear a speech like that, I say Kain Yirbu, and I wish you continued success and growth. I've only seen good things over the years. I actually like what you said about failures. I think it's actually, I'm aware of some of them. I still want you to get that post-high school yeshiva going. I think there's a real need for it. I know you will. Yeah. I'm just going to give you a little push on that one.
Thank you.
I think that's just the community really needs it. I'm speaking that as a community publisher also. I think that we need it. We do need it.
Yep.
And I think also the ability for you all to expand past 220 students someday might be something that our community needs very much as our community grows. And as you know, I have a fourth grader.
All right.
Who's a boy.
We're planning for
I know.
I just have one request, which is that at the 20th year of the Jewish Link and the 20th year of Heichal, that, one of your giveaways at the 20th year, we should rig that I should win. That's,
That's interesting. We didn't get any rigging requests. Interesting to get that.
Well, first of all, I
from
want to tell you something. At the 20th, I hope that our giveaways are bigger. So that's for sure. Even though I wasn't so unhappy with them this year. Okay, we'll try to remember that in 10 years, God willing. God willing.
All right. Great to have you on the podcast. Thanks for being here.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for being with us on the Jewish Link Pitch Meeting podcast. If you would like to participate or be in touch with us in any way, please email us at editor@jewishlink.news and follow us and find our podcast wherever you find podcasts.